Hello, this is Dennis Cavanaugh, meteorologist here at the National Weather Service in Little Rock, and I'm going to give you an update here on our winter weather briefing for February 23rd, 2022. This briefing was created at 8 a.m. So, what's changed in the forecast? Well, if you woke up this morning, you'll notice that the winter storm warning has moved south quite a bit from what it was yesterday. So the colder air has moved a little further south into Arkansas. Well, not a little, quite a bit further south into Arkansas, which means that the corridor of freezing rain and sleet has been shifted south accordingly to match up with those sub-freezing temperatures. The initial wave of precipitation today may take on the form of sleet if it falls in the form of thunder sleet. Yes, I said that correctly. Thunder sleet. There are some convective elements, so it's almost like an elevated thunderstorm, but with freezing temperatures. So we may see some sleet initially, and then widespread freezing rain is more likely as we get into the overnight hours into the early Thursday morning hours as well. Again, this is our updated winter storm warning. Yesterday, it stopped north of the I-40 corridor. Today, it extends south, basically from Mena to Hot Springs, along the I-30 corridor to Little Rock, and then east along the I-40 corridor to just north of Memphis. This extension of the warning, again, is based on an expectation that impacts from the winter storm are going to be felt further south than what we had previously expected yesterday. So the amounts that we're forecasting for freezing rain, yesterday, if you'll remember, we really had the area from Mountain View to Pocahontas, Walnut Ridge, really pegged for the area of maximum freezing rain accumulation. And this may still change. Those areas are still going to get a significant amount of freezing rain. We just have the bullseye a little bit further south now, again, based on where that cold air has gone compared to where the precipitation is going to fall. Right now, the bullseye looks like it's going to be along the I-40, I-30 corridor, going from central Arkansas, Conway to Little Rock, northeast to Searcy, and then up there to just Walnut Ridge and just north of Jonesboro. That's where we expect at least a half an inch of freezing rain or ice accumulation. Once you get ice accumulation above a quarter inch, water and ice weighs quite a bit, and so that's when you start to see trees, not entire trees falling, but tree branches falling, power lines falling. Winds are going to be 10 to 15 miles an hour, so if those power lines get swinging with the ice on them, that can lead to power line breakages as well. So do be prepared for some power outages in addition to the just normal difficulties in traveling. I know RDOT has been doing a great job pre-treating the roads, but pre-treating isn't going to stop all of the ice. It's just Mother Nature. So be prepared for some icy roads, difficult travel over the next couple of days here. You'll notice the accumulation for, and I'll say, quote unquote, snowfall here is 1 to 2 inches. It's higher, and it's not really snowfall at all. It's going to fall in the form of sleet. So we do expect quite higher sleet amounts as the colder air is going to be deeper now in the northwest part of the state. So that deeper cold air, that's actually robbing some of the moisture that would be freezing rain, which is why the freezing rain amounts fell a little bit in Mountain Views, because we expect more sleet to fall instead. So we've got a corridor of 1 inch sleet amounts, basically from Scott County, just north of Mena, over to Mountain View, Harrison, Fayetteville, Fort Smith. 1 inch, possibly pockets of 2 inch sleet accumulations, especially where you have thunder sleet. And again, that's those elevated thunderstorms. They're not severe storms or anything, but you get a couple of lightning strikes and you get a lot of sleet. So you get some very heavy sleet with those convective elements. If you were to melt everything down into just liquid rain, this is the amount of rain that we expect over the next 48 hours, including starting right now at 8 a.m. When I'm recording this briefing. So you can imagine we're expecting, if this was just 40, 50-degree weather, we're already expecting an inch to an inch and a half to 2 inches of rain, in a big stripe there across central, northeast, uh, south central Arkansas, and then areas to the north a half an inch to an inch, and areas to the south a half an inch to an inch. So the moisture is going to be there. It's just a matter of what are the temperatures going to look like, and how deep is that cold air going to be as the precipitation falls. We are under a slight risk for enough precipitation to possibly cause some flooding there in far northeastern Arkansas. And part of that is because those rivers are already flooded. So any additional heavy rain or any additional sleet, freezing rain, is just going to exacerbate those flooding conditions. And so that's why that excessive rainfall, that slight excessive rainfall outlook is out there for northeast Arkansas. This was the radar image we're looking at this morning over Oklahoma City, extending into North Texas. We had heavy sleet, some thunder sleet was reported. We saw some lightning strikes there. You can see in Oklahoma, the temperatures are much colder than they are here in Arkansas. So it's actually a super easy call to, it's going to be sleet because it's that cold. It's much, much colder than it is in Arkansas. The precipitation and the form it's going to fall in is a lot more difficult in Arkansas because if you look to the east, our temperatures are hovering just around or just below freezing across some of the most populated areas of the state. Again, those areas along the north of the I-40 and I-30 corridor. That's where we have a significant portion of Arkansans living, and that's where the temperatures are most uncertain. This morning, they started off as below freezing, but we will get some sunshine even through the clouds. Even though it's filtered, it will warm the temperatures up a couple of degrees. But we also are combating northeast winds. So it's a matter of watching the temperatures to see, if that filtered sunshine or if the northeast winds are going to reinforce the cold air and keep temperatures cold enough to fall as freezing rain and sleet throughout the day today. Our most likely placement for the heavy sleet and some of that thunder sleet is going to be in northwest Arkansas, probably later this morning through the afternoon. That area of heavy sleet may turn into freezing rain as it moves further east, as you see those temperatures increase over northeast Arkansas into the upper 20s. There is a band of precipitation already in Arkansas and southwest Arkansas moving to the northeast. It's probably going to affect central Arkansas from Russellville through Conway, Little Rock, and areas to the southwest, Pine Bluff, probably late this morning through lunchtime. Again, as you go further south, we become less certain whether that's going to be frozen or not. So currently in Pine Bluff and Arkadelphia, temperatures are just above freezing. So if they stay that way, it's just going to be kind of a miserable cold rain. But this sort of wing of rainfall or this band of precipitation that's moving northeast, it could be a mix of freezing rain and sleet as it moves into those colder temperatures, especially north of the I-30 and I-40 interchange. It's not going to be continuous. This looks like an isolated band moving northeast. But later on, we are going to see an expansion of rain and freezing rain across the state. In the next few slides here, I'm going to show you model images to try to give you an idea of the timing. Keep in mind, I'm showing you images from one model. One model never, ever, ever gets the forecast correct. So don't look at this as a perfect forecast on where things are going to be or how the precipitation is going to fall. This just gives you a general idea of where we expect precipitation to be at any given time. And as of Tuesday evening, even through this morning, the forecast models have just not been handling the placement of the cold air very well, which makes the forecast for precipitation type very difficult. We almost have to watch surface temperatures as the precip is falling to know exactly what's going to happen. That makes it very hard for decision makers. Makes it hard for all of you to make decisions yourself, whether you're going to be able to travel Thursday, whether you're going to be able to travel later this afternoon. Um, all of these things we're going to be keeping a close eye on, and we'll be updating the forecast frequently during the day today, especially on our social media outlets. That'll probably be the easiest way to keep up with any significant changes to the forecast. Uh, at any rate, let's move on to where we expect stuff to be. So, that heavy convective thunder sleet that's over central Oklahoma, or that was over central Oklahoma, I guess, at 7:30 this morning. We do expect it to move northeast, cover much of northwest Arkansas later this morning. Again, we do have sort of that band of precipitation that's going to continue moving from southwest Arkansas to the east towards central Arkansas. This morning through about lunchtime as well. The precipitation in general is going to spread across all of northern Arkansas by this afternoon, and you can see this broad areas of red and purple. Again, that's the model, not exactly knowing whether it's freezing rain or sleet. It's also us not knowing exactly whether it's freezing rain or sleet. But we do know it will be widespread. And so we do expect some significant accumulations to begin this afternoon and going into the evening hours and the overnight hours for the end of the day today. This evening, after we get that big push of widespread precipitation, it does look like we may have a brief lull in the real heavy, freezing rain or sleet, whatever happens to be falling. It looks like the precipitation intensity will fall a little bit, and that's because there's an a weak upper level feature that's forcing a lot of this morning and through this afternoon. That's gonna pass us by this evening, but then another upper level disturbance is going to move over the area overnight, and that's when we're going to start to see banding, heavy banding of areas of freezing rain and sleet during the overnight hours into early Thursday morning. And again, that banding, when you get the very tight bands of freezing rain and sleet, that's where you do have, again, the potential for an isolated thunderstorm or two. So, you could see some, an isolated area of thunder freezing rain or thunder sleet. Again, it's not an indication of a severe storm, but it is an indication of very heavy precipitation rates. One note on very heavy freezing rain, that sounds like an awful combination of words. But if freezing rain is coming down in buckets, it's actually not going to accumulate as much ice as you might think. So very, very heavy freezing rain amounts doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a ton of ice all at once. Uh, Ice tends to accumulate on elevated surfaces, at least, when you have a moderate to a light freezing rain. That allows it to slowly accumulate on those surfaces. Really heavy rain, it just doesn't give it enough time to freeze on those surfaces because it's got more momentum. So having heavy freezing rain doesn't mean necessarily as bad of impacts for the trees and power lines, but it's certainly got to land somewhere. And if it's on the frozen ground, you're going to have icy streets, especially when you get away from the interstate or highway systems. As we move on to during the day on Thursday, again, the models pretty much agree we're going to have a widespread area of precipitation from southwest over northeast Arkansas. This particular model shows everything as green. And again, that's just indicative of the model struggling with how cold it is right now. We think it's very unlikely that all of that area is going to be green as pure rain. We don't think that that's very likely to happen at all. So if you would ignore the color, the placement of the precipitation is more what we're looking at. So we do expect some widespread, um, freezing rain and possibly sleet accumulations as you move further north during the day Thursday morning. As we move throughout the day Thursday morning and afternoon, actually, as we move to Thursday evening, that's when we expect precipitation to start to dwindle and just move off to the east and basically come to an end without any precip across the state of Arkansas. Um, an hour or two after sunsets. And that's why our winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories, that's why they end at 6 p.m. on Thursday, because that's when most of the precip is going to stop across the state. The impacts, however, we are, they're going to depend again on temperatures, what you get. Up there in the far northwest, you're probably going to get sleet just because the temperatures are so much colder. As you get towards central Arkansas, you're a little bit central and northeast Arkansas. And I guess southwest Arkansas. I won't leave you out either. You're a little bit closer to right around the freezing mark. So you're more likely to get freezing rain, although you will probably still have some sleet mixed in, but mostly freezing rain. And then far southeast, we're more confident that the temperatures are just going to stay above freezing. So you'll just have rain for the most part, a very, very cold rain. It doesn't make it feel good, but at least there's no significant impacts to infrastructure and roadways that we're expecting in southeast Arkansas. Peak wind gusts today expected to be 15 to 20 miles an hour. Remember, these are out of the northeast. So that's going to reinforce cold air filtering into the state. And again, if you start to get accumulation on power lines or tree limbs, that's what causes those tree limbs and power lines to start wavering. And with the weight of the ice on them, that's what causes them to break. The tree limbs to fall on top of power lines, or the power lines themselves to simply break. During the day on Thursday, winds are expected to be even a little bit stronger, with wind gusts in the 15 to 20 mile per hour range. So, during the day on Thursday, when we get more of that steady freezing rain accumulation over much of the state, at least again along the I-30 and I-40 corridors and north, that's when we expect to see quite a bit of power outage problems across the state, as any power infrastructure that's above ground becomes susceptible to just basically breaking due to the combination of ice loading and wind at the same time. The highways and interstates, those are the most likely to be drivable. But if you get away from those, you probably can't drive on a lot of the, on most roads. I'll just put it that way. Unless you're going to stay completely on the interstates or highways, I would anticipate it will be very difficult to drive across northern and central Arkansas on Thursday. Right now, our highest confidence is in freezing rain across central and northeast and even parts of south central Arkansas. Our confidence in sleet has increased quite a bit in northwest Arkansas because the temperatures are so cold. And again, the high confidence in freezing rain and sleet, it means we have a high confidence in a really terrible forecast. We don't like it. If we could change the forecast, we would, but we can't. We can just tell you what it's going to be, or what we think is going to happen. So our confidence in a major winter storm is pretty high at this time. If you haven't made preparations already, it's good to make preparations to have maybe an alternative source of heat. Never burn anything inside your house. It could lead to carbon monoxide poisoning, which is odorless, and you can't smell it, but it will kill you. So don't burn anything indoors, but maybe have extra blankets. If you have a gas fireplace or natural gas fireplace in a vent or something, that might be a nice alternative as well. But be prepared to be able to stay warm without power. Be prepared to not be able to travel. and the power infrastructure may take a couple of days to be repaired due to the expectation for ice and winds at the same time. That's the latest forecast information we've got. Again, this is just an explanation of why we have trouble, why anybody, all meteorologists have trouble forecasting sleet and freezing rain. Snow and rain are super easy. If the entire atmosphere is below freezing, it's going to be snow. That's a very, very easy forecast. How much, that's maybe a little bit tougher. But if the entire atmosphere, 12,000 feet of the atmosphere is above freezing, again, super easy forecast. It's just going to rain or be a thunderstorm. It's when you have that warm air aloft, and then temperatures below freezing below that is when it makes the forecast really, really difficult for sleet or freezing rain, because we don't really have a good way to monitor how deep the cold air is above the ground. We can monitor surface temperatures, but we don't know how deep that cold air is because we simply can't measure temperatures up at 2,000 or 3,000 feet in the atmosphere continuously. We can send up a weather balloon, but that just tells us what's happening around, central Arkansas. It doesn't tell us what's happening everywhere. So again, sleet and freezing rain, most likely precipitation types. Either one is going to have some significant impacts. Sleet is more of a travel impact. Freezing rain is going to have more infrastructure impacts than just travel. That's where you could have the power outages as well. This forecast is likely to change. I wish I could sit here and tell you this morning I've got all the answers. This is exactly what's going to happen, but that would be a lie. We're going to update the forecast as we get new information, and it's as simple as that. As we get more information, we'll put the latest forecasts out there to you on our webpage at www.weather.gov/LZK. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and hopefully you're seeing this on our YouTube channel at NWS Little Rock. We will be providing updated email briefings and briefings to our state partners and local partners as well, in order to give them an updated forecast for where things are, how bad we expect them to be, and how things are going to look throughout the next 48 hours. So that'll help inform local folks of where do you put shelters, where do you close schools, where do you put resources to handle this winter storm. And so the best I can say is stay safe out there. Keep in mind that the forecast will be updated. And that's about all I've got. So good luck, and please keep updated to the latest forecast.